You'll have to be a little patient with me. I have a bit of a cold. It's one of the perks of having a 2-year-old in daycare. So I wanted to begin today by taking some time to thank Greta for asking me to spend this Sunday at West Hill, and to you, the community, for graciously welcoming me. The theme for today's service is all about awakening to the new birth, to the new life that is around us. It speaks to our values as well as to what's emerging before us. Today I'm going to speak about these values, about this awakening, and also about the Clergy Project. Since most of you don't know me, I'll give you a little bit more background about me. I am a friend of Greta's. I went, as Greta did, to Christian seminary. But unlike Greta, I attended a Roman Catholic seminary, so I was never ordained. I was studying, though, to become a chaplain for either the secondary school board or for one of the hospitals in the city. While I was studying to become a chaplain, I began to think about my belief in God, and it was during those studies that I really started to question. It is a bit of a conundrum in theological schools that despite the goals of educating ministers and theologians, their seminaries allow for a wide range of theological perspectives, and many of these perspectives are radically unorthodox. So by the time I graduated, I had let go of God and all the theistic concepts that go with it, which, given my history, you may or may not be asking yourself how Greta and I became friends. So, we met as members of the Clergy Project. The Clergy Project is an online confidential community for active and former clergy members who are non-believers. Our members identify as atheist, agnostic, and freethinkers. I myself identify as an atheist, secular humanist. The Clergy Project provides an online safe house for unbelieving religious leaders of every persuasion. Inside the virtual walls of our site, we are free to interact, to share our stories, to find community, and to marvel at the charade of traditional religions that have so successfully bullied and dictated much of humanity's functioning. When I first became a member of this group about a year ago, the most amazing thing was for me to know that I was no longer alone. For many years after completing my degree, I felt like I had to be the only person who went through seminary and came out an atheist. I now know better. Knowing that the Clergy Project and its members exist may be unsettling for some believers. Whatever, we may be seen as leaders who have lost their way or as troublemakers. Whatever that opinion, it was always our ability to reason that led each of our members to this community. Now we work together to create awareness of our existence, to communicate our values, and to support our members who need help in getting out of active ministry. I wish there were many West Hills out there to provide a safe place for those members. When it comes to the Clergy Project, we're witnessing the birth of a new grassroots community, which fits in well with the change of season and with the theme of rebirth and awakening. I'm always excited by this time of year as I see the world once again in bloom. I hear the birds chattering. I smell the first spring rain. Everything seems so ripe of possibilities and optimism. I searched for a while, a really long while, trying to find a reading that spoke to this feeling. Funnily enough, I found it in a Christopher Hitchens book. I wanted the reading to reflect not only my position as an atheist, but also the idea of optimism and potential. Though I have come to accept that our existence is fortuitous, I believe that we are instrumental in creating well-being for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And I see West Hill actively doing that by sharing your values and your commitment to your community. The reading that I chose today by Salman Rushdie speaks well to this dichotomy. Despite its apparent lack of warm fuzzies, it does inspire me and it challenges me. Despite, when he asks us, how do you live, and what is right action and what is wrong action, he's calling us to think for ourselves and to embrace that articulation of life in all its diversity and see it as it is, a responsibility. His words challenge me to marvel in the reality of existence, to know that nothing is ever easy, and that we should cherish our opportunity to cross the stage of life. Physicist Lawrence Krauss said, "Every atom in your body came from a star that exploded, and the atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right. It's probably the most poetic thing that I know about physics. You are all stardust. You couldn't be here if stars didn't explode, because the elements, the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, all the things that matter for life and for evolution, weren't created at the beginning of time. They were created in the nuclear furnaces of stars, and the only way for them to get into your body is if those stars were kind enough to explode." This quote is startling. It tells us that life is not a story of the mundane. It's a radically challenging opportunity for awareness. In this awareness, we learn not only about the nature of the universe and the truly cosmic events that got this billion-year-old journey on a roll, but also we learn about ourselves by narrowing our focus to the tangible relationships and life experiences that we each encounter. Speaking of which, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my friends in the Clergy Project. The Clergy Project has existed for just over a year, and in that short time, we have done what's come natural. We have reached out to one another. We have embraced our diversities and our sameness. Because of this support, our members, who have recently come out, have been doing some tremendous things. Here are some of my friends on the project right now. My good friend, Jerry DeWitt, you can kind of see him. He's leaning in, whispering in someone's ear. He is a former Pentecostal minister up until a year ago, who not only left the atheist closet, but flung the door wide. Jerry details how his thinking about God changed in his 5 stages. He started off with God loves everybody. He moved to God saves everybody. Then further down that list, God is in everybody. Eventually, God is everyone's eternal dialogue. And finally, God is a delusion. Now that Jerry is out, he has become one of the most active members of the Clergy Project. His gregarious nature and his optimism speak to the potential that non-believing clergy have. On a side note, despite all of Jerry's gregariousness and openness and kindness, he's endured tremendous suffering coming out as an atheist. Having lost his family, his friends, he's been ostracized by his community and cannot even find a job and has to leave his state. So it's a long uphill battle for the members that leave the pulpit. There's also in this picture, you can kind of see her. She's standing to the I'm trying to figure out which side she's on now. She's close to the end here, next to the gentleman on the far left. Teresa is a newly minted former Methodist minister. You might have seen a little bit about her in the news. She was on CNN this morning. She is also working hard to promote our group and to draw attention to the unique challenges that unbelieving clergy face when they leave active ministry. In the slide, as I said, you see her with Jerry. This is just shortly after she came out at the American Atheist Conference in March. We also have our supporters who have, through their efforts, made the Clergy Project possible. One in particular is this gentleman, seen here embracing his ill friend at their last public speaking event. Dr. Dawkins has been a champion of the Clergy Project, along with Dan Barker, a former minister himself, as well as Linda Lascola and Daniel Dennett, who published the tough study, Preachers Who Are Not Believers. Given this convergence of people and values, it's not surprising that I keep hearing from members of the Clergy Project that the timing is ripe for taking a stand, for building a community, for communicating our values, for planting a new idea. It's hard work to cultivate something new, but when you're inspired, it makes the work so invigorating. This time of year when new growth is erupting all around us, I think it's only normal that we feel summoned into action. We each have things that we are passionate about, whether it be music, education, social justice, environmentalism. As the Earth tilts and the Northern Hemisphere once again emerges from hibernation, it's time for us to get our hands dirty. Whatever our passion or motivation, now is the time for us to cultivate it. A wise old nun from the 12th century once wrote, "Human beings cannot live without the rest of nature. They must care for all natural things." Our species are caretakers. That is how we survived and how we thrive, whether that be as gardeners, parents, students, or former clergy. Each of us playing a part in this, our human story. Thank you.